Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something we all rely on, our medicine. We're going to step into the shoes of a quality auditor to see how the safety and effectiveness of a drug isn't just checked at the end. Nope, it's meticulously built in, right from the very first step.
You know, it's the big question, isn't it? Every time you take a pill, you're putting a massive amount of trust in the people who made it. But that trust isn't just a blind leap of faith. It's actually built on a super rigorous system of checks and documentation. So let's dive in and see how an auditor actually verifies that trust, starting right on the factory floor.
All right, so our journey starts with two of the most important documents in the whole process, the recipe and the diary. An auditor's very first stop is to check these out. And trust me, understanding the difference between these two is absolutely key to everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, let's break this down because it's super important. On one hand, you have the master production record, the MPR. Just think of that as the perfect gold standard recipe. It's been approved, it's been tested, it's the only way to make this drug. Then you have the batch production record, or BPR. That's the diary. It's a fresh copy of the recipe that an operator fills out in real time as they make one specific batch, writing down every single thing that happens.
Now, this is where an auditor's job gets kind of like a detective's. We don't just glance at that diary, we scrutinize it. You see whiteout on that list? It is absolutely forbidden. Why? Because it hides the original data. Overwriting numbers, or even worse, filling in information before you've actually done the step, that's not just a mistake. That can be considered fraud. These aren't just little paperwork issues. They are huge, flashing red lights that the process might be out of control.
So, we've got our recipe and our diary. But in modern manufacturing, that's not enough. It's not just about following the instructions. It's about proving that those instructions work perfectly, every single time, and then checking your work constantly, in real time.
And that brings us to this huge concept called process validation. I know, that definition on the screen looks a little dense, right? So what does it really mean? It means you have to provide cold, hard, documented proof that your recipe works. Not just once, but every single time to produce the exact same high-quality product. No exceptions. And here's the thing. This isn't something you just do once and then check a box. No way. It's a whole life cycle. It starts in the lab when you're designing the process. Then you move to qualification, where you have to prove it works on the massive, real-deal factory equipment. And then, and this is so important, it never stops. Stage 3 means you are constantly monitoring that process, forever, to make sure nothing has changed.
This quote right here just says it all, doesn't it? Imagine making millions of tablets and only then finding out something went wrong. That would be a disaster. That's why we have something called in-process quality controls, or IPQCs. These are little checks you do during production, like checking a tablet's weight or thickness, so you can catch any tiny deviation right away and fix it before it becomes a huge problem.
All right, next section, reading the warning signs. You know, a really great quality system is like the nervous system in your body. It doesn't just react when you get hurt. It feels the little subtle changes that tell you a problem might be on its way. An auditor's job is to make sure those nerves are working.
Let me give you a perfect example of this. Take a look at these results from a water system. Now, the official limit is way up at 500. So technically, every single one of these results is a pass. They're all good, right? Well, not so fast. An experienced auditor looks at this and doesn't just see numbers. We see a story. And that upward trend, that is a ticking clock. It's a warning sign that something is starting to go wrong, and we expect the company to be all over it already. And that whole proactive ticking clock mindset is behind every single question we ask. For example, we'll ask about line clearance. Why? Because we want to make absolutely sure that no stray labels or leftover product from the last batch can possibly mix with the new one. We check for locked cages for rejected materials. Why? To make it physically impossible for someone to accidentally use a bad ingredient. Every question has a critical patient safety reason behind it.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. All of these things we've been talking about, the diary, the validation, the trend analysis, they're all part of this massive, game-changing philosophical shift in how medicine is made.
See, the old way was what we call quality by testing. You'd basically make a huge batch of pills, test a few of them, and if they seemed okay, you'd ship the whole thing. It was totally reactive. You were just hoping for the best. The new way is quality by design. The whole idea here is to understand your process so deeply and control it so tightly that you design a system that is so robust it literally can't make a bad batch. It's proactive instead of reactive.
So, let's put all this together. time for a little challenge. You're the auditor. The validated recipe says a critical step has to be between 25 and 35 minutes, but the diary, the BPR, clearly shows they only did it for 15 minutes. Now let's say the final tests on the tablets come back and they look totally fine. So what's the call here? Is this just a minor paperwork error?
The verdict, it's a major failure. No question about it. That entire batch is invalid. And here's the crucial point. It doesn't matter what the final tests show. The second you deviate from the validated process, you lose all guarantees of quality. The integrity of the product is gone because the integrity of the process was broken. Simple as that.
And that brings us right to the single most important idea of all of this. This is the guiding principle for all modern pharmaceutical manufacturing. You cannot test quality into a product at the end. You just can't. You have to build it in intentionally, with science and with discipline, from the very first ingredient to the final sealed bottle. And that is how we really know our medicine is safe.